everybody, we might get started. Welcome, thank you for coming on this very chilly morning. We're really excited to have you part of our UQ Abroad group. You're a very elite group of students. There's not a huge amount of students that go on exchange while they're doing their undergraduate program here at UQ. So you are in a very elite group of students, and I hope that you realise that, and I hope that you make the most of it. And by being here, we will hopefully give you a lot of information to help make the next 6 to 12 months as smooth and as easy for yourself and for us as possible. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your exam study. We will be having a little pop quiz at the end of this, so please do pay attention, but there is chocolate up for grabs, so pay attention. So just a quick little introduction to the UQ Abroad team. You may already know Jan McCreary. She's our manager. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here today. But hopefully you won't need to deal with her too much unless you've got particular issues or problems with your exchange process. Mainly you'll be dealing with the exchange advisor responsible for your particular portfolio. So my name is Caroline. I'm the particular portfolio leader for Europe and Latin America. We also have Ian down the front. He looks after Japan, Korea, Ireland and the UK. We have Etty also, who looks after the US and Canada. And we do have another team member, Waya. She'll be looking after Scandinavia, New Zealand, South Africa and the rest of Asia. So hopefully you've identified the person that you'll be needing to correspond with in the first instance regarding your exchange. But of course you can talk to any of us regarding any questions that you may have. So just to give you an idea of the group that you're in, we had about 400 applications, almost 400 applications for the exchange in semester 1, 2018. So going to Europe was about 26% of the applications, Scandinavia 12%, US and Canada about 23%, UK and Ireland 17%, Asia 17%, that's up a little bit from last year, so maybe the momentum from the Australian government is contributing to that. Latin America, 1.5%, that's always a pretty small portfolio, and New Zealand and South Africa, we've got 4 people. So who here is going to US and Canada? Excellent. Who's for Europe, including Scandinavia? Very good. Asia? Excellent. And who have I forgotten? UK and Ireland. Excellent. Have we got anyone for New Zealand or South Africa in the room? Not today. We do have another session on Thursday, so they might be coming to that one. So, in the next 6 to 12 months, you will be communicating a lot with UQ Abroad. The primary email address is, of course, uqabroad@uq.edu.au. However, the advisors do have personal emails as well that you're welcome to use. We will only correspond with you via your UQ student email address. So please make sure that you check that, or you direct it to a Gmail or a Hotmail or whichever mail account that you would like to use more frequently. But you must make sure that you check that UQ student email account somehow. If you do correspond with UQ Abroad, we'd really appreciate if you could include the following information in the subject line of your email: the subject of your inquiry, your host university, the semester of your exchange, and your UQ student ID. This makes it really easy for us to pinpoint exactly who you are and what your inquiry is regarding, and helps us respond to you in the quickest possible way. All of these slides I should have said at the start, and the recording of this session will be uploaded onto the UQ Abroad website, so if you do need to come back to any of this information later on, that will be available to you. You're also very welcome to call us up and talk to us over the phone. If we don't happen to be there to answer your phone, please leave a message, but also please be clear. Sometimes students rush through their phone number and we can't quite pick up the numbers that you say if you say it too fast. So please make sure that you're clear and concise with your message. One really important point for you to take home today is that you really shouldn't be contacting your host university at this point in time. Any questions about the host, about courses, about course profiles, about full-time loads, about any information about the host really should be coming through UQ Abroad at this point in time, because we don't want you to accidentally contact the wrong person at the host and be given the wrong information. So any inquiries, please come to UQ Abroad. Another really important thing for you to do at this stage is to join the UQ Abroad Facebook group. Some of you may already have done that. For anybody who hasn't, this is a really awesome way for you to connect with other students who are about to go on exchange, but also a lot of students who are already on exchange that are overseas at the moment, and those students who've been overseas and are now back at UQ. Those people are invaluable sources of information for you because they've actually been there and done it. I mean, we can talk about the administrative side and from a staff perspective, but I mean, I've never lived in half of the places that I advise on. I've never been a student at those universities. So really, a great source of information for you are the students who've been there and done it themselves. So please join the UQ Abroad Facebook group. So, to give you a bit of an idea of how this whole thing is going to flow for the next 6 to 12 months, we've got a bit of a timeline for you. So, hopefully you all confirmed your eligibility, tick. You've researched and selected your top 2 preferences, tick. And you've submitted your application and your study plan online by the appropriate application deadline. And that's part of the reason that you're in this room, because you've done all of those steps. So the next step in the process to come is UQ Abroad assessing your application. Now, we can't actually do this until after your exam results have been released from this semester, and then we calculate your grades, including this semester's grades. So you still have a chance to bump up your GPA to improve your possibility of getting into your preferred host university by studying hard and performing well in these upcoming exams. After we've assessed your application, we then notify you of the application outcome and the university that we can allocate you to. We then send your study plan to your UQ faculty for assessment. I would just really encourage you at the moment to keep a copy of all of the documents that you create, make, receive for your exchange, because technically with the privacy laws we're not supposed to release certain documents, so it's better if you just have your own copy that you keep in your exchange file. So going into a little bit more detail, as I mentioned, we can only assess your applications once your semester 1 exam results have been finalised. And once those grades have been calculated, we can then allocate host university places based on the number of places that are available at the host university, and then your cumulative GPA ranked against other students' GPAs, and whether you've had prior UQ Abroad experience. So just to give you an example, say for the University of California, if we have 15 applicants, but we only have 10 places available at the host university, then the top 10 students ranked by GPA will be offered those places. The other 5 students who missed out will then move on to their second preference. If you have had prior UQ Abroad experience, you're automatically considered below every other student who applies for that host university. So even if your GPA is a 7, but you've been on exchange before, you'll be placed below a student who may be on a 4.5, who is a first-time applicant. So do keep that in mind if you're a second-time exchange student, but we will always endeavour to place you somewhere as long as you meet the basic eligibility criteria for exchange. So all of that assessment and allocation of places should be done by the end of July this year. So I know it sounds like it's a long way away, but we have to wait for those steps to be done before we can notify you. If you have deferred or supplementary exams, remarks, resits, etc., then your grades are obviously going to be delayed, which means that our notification to you is also going to be delayed. If you happen to be in a cohort of students where one person in that cohort has a delayed exam, then we delay notification to all the students in that cohort to make sure that we're fair and equal to all students. So you may not have a deferred exam, but you may not get your notification by the end of July because somebody else who's applying to the same university as you may have a deferred exam. So then, as I mentioned, the study plans get sent to your faculties for assessment and approval only after we have confirmed you're eligible and allocated you to a host. So some frequently asked questions. Can I change my first preference of host university at this stage? No, unless you have concerns about prior convictions. And this is particularly in regards to the US, because we have had students in the past who've had issues getting their visa if they've had a prior conviction. So if that's particularly a concern for you, then I'd recommend you stick around and have a chat with Etty afterwards. If you do have to change, then the change has to be made in writing, with a new proposed study plan by the end of this month. I did mention very quickly, what if I don't get into my first preference? As long as you meet the basic criteria for exchange, we'll go to your second preference. If a second preference isn't available, then we'll give you a suggestion of universities that still have places available for exchange and we think fit well with your academic field of study. So we want you to go on exchange. We need you to go on exchange. We've been given directives from higher up that we need to get as many students as possible overseas. So we want you to go overseas and we'll do our best to find you a great place to go. Once we've confirmed the university that we can allocate you to, then a new study plan will need to come to UQ Abroad that we can then send to your faculty. So once all of that has happened, it then comes to applying to the host university. So UQ Abroad will nominate you to the host. We'll send all of the particular details that they need about you to the host university. And then the host university will give us the application instructions. We will then put these to you in a time to apply email. So in the subject line it'll be time to apply, and that will give you instructions from your UQ Abroad advisor about what you need to do to complete the host university application. A lot of them are moving online, so they're simply online applications. Some, however, are still old school and you have to print out forms, fill in documents, supply supporting documents to UQ Abroad, and then we have to send it off in the post to the host university. If you do have to send physical documents to the host, you don't have to do that yourself. Please give them to UQ Abroad and we'll send them through our international courier. Now the host application deadlines vary, and there's a slide on the next page that will go into further detail for that. Once the host has assessed your application, then they'll send through an acceptance letter to you. Now this process can take anywhere from 1 day to 8 weeks, depending on the host university. And once you've got your host university application, your host university acceptance, then you can prepare for your departure, which means applying and finalising your visa, booking your flights, confirming your accommodation, and attending the pre-departure session that UQ Abroad holds just before you go overseas. So going back a few steps, applying to the host, as I mentioned, the deadlines for the host university applications do vary quite a lot. I think the first deadline we've got is the 1st of August for one of our US partners, and then one of my German partners I think goes right up until the end of November. So any time between August and November or December, you will need to be applying for your host university. As I mentioned, UQ Abroad, our advisors will contact you with the details. Please don't begin an application until you are advised by UQ Abroad. If you happen to find something on a host university website, don't start filling it in because it might not be the right form for you. A couple of little notes. If you're planning on going to Japan, most of the Japanese partners require you to show continuous enrolment at UQ. If you do have questions about that, then come and talk to Ian after the session. And all of those going to the USA and Canada, I'd like you just to stick around after the session's finished today, just for an extra 10 or 15 minutes, because Eddie's got some points that she just needs to talk to the US and Canadian students about. So applying to the host university, you will probably be asked to supply supporting documentation. Not all of these may be relevant for you, but these are just some examples of what you might need to think about preparing as you apply to the host university. Quite often, an official UQ transcript is required. Now, this is not a printout of your studies report from SciNet. This is actually an official academic transcript printed out by the Student Centre that you need to apply for either online or in person. Now, I think it's about $10 or $15 to get it printed. If you need it done the next day or within 24 hours, I think there's an extra cost associated with this. So as soon as your exam results from this current semester have been finalised and released, it might be a good idea over the holidays or at the start of next semester just to get a transcript printed so that you've got it ready for your host application. Some host universities also ask for proof of finances, so this might be a bank statement with a certain amount of money in it. You may be able to use your parents' or a financial guarantor's bank account instead of your own. They might need to provide a little letter of support saying, yes, I agree to financially support this student while they're on exchange. Now, this may be needed at the time of application. It may also be needed at the time of visa application as well. Some universities ask for a personal statement. They want to know why you're interested in studying on exchange and specifically why at their university, what you hope to get out of the experience, and also potentially what you can give back. Think about how you can influence the campus culture and the host university's campus life as well, rather than what you can take out of it, perhaps what you can also give back. Passport, very important. You must have at least 6 months validity on your passport when you return to Australia. So if you have a look at your passport and you think, okay, I'm going on exchange in semester 1, 2018, that means my exchange will probably finish May, June, let's say July 2018. I need to make sure that my passport is valid until at least December 2018 so that I can come back into the country legally. If your passport is not valid until that date, I'd really strongly encourage you to renew your passport now. Because when we nominate you to the host university, sometimes they ask for your passport number, and that needs to be the passport that you're travelling on. So even though you're not leaving until potentially January next year, we need your passport details potentially within the next couple of months. So if your passport is not valid until December 2018 at least, please renew it now. Some universities ask for letters of reference. These might be academic letters of reference or they might be personal letters of reference. They are usually academic, so you should really be asking a lecturer or a tutor that you've had a good relationship with in the past, who's able to comment on your academic performance at UQ and comment on some of the skills and attributes that you have as a student. So whether it be communication skills, whether it be group work, whether it be participation, something to support you as a student going to the host university. Quite often a CV or resume is required also as part of your host university application, so you might want to refresh that one. Medical check, really common for US and Asian partners to have a medical check, especially for the US, immunisations. If you haven't had all of your standard childhood immunisations here in Australia, you'll need to make sure that you get those because you won't be allowed into the US without having those immunisations. And you may also need to go and visit your GP and just get a standard health checkup. Other partners may need a little bit more information. Sometimes there's a TB check, sometimes there's an HIV check. So please make sure that you follow all of the requests of the host university, and UQ Abroad will definitely tell you what those requests are. Accommodation. Now this is completely your decision as to where you would like to live while you're overseas. Usually the host university will give you some assistance in this area. Perhaps it might be at the time of application or perhaps with the acceptance letter from the host. I'd really encourage you to research the options that are available to you, and a really good way of doing this is through the student testimonials on the UQ Abroad website. Hopefully you did look through those as you were narrowing down your top preferences of host university, but maybe go back and revisit it with a specific focus on accommodation, because we do ask students to talk about where they lived while they were overseas. This might also be a good opportunity to post a question in the Facebook group about where people have lived, what's good, how much it costs, to find out more information. The other thing you might like to look into is maybe some temporary accommodation if you're going to be arriving a little bit early. You know, some students are really happy to be in a youth hostel for a couple of weeks and find accommodation after that. Others have done the Airbnb, others have friends where they can, you know, couch surf. It's really up to you, but we'd really strongly encourage you to have something booked in so that you're not arriving in the middle of the night and trying to find somewhere as soon as you arrive. Okay, very important. If you only take one thing away from today, please take this away. Do not plan any travel or participation in short-term programs prior to your exchange. So I know you finish exams at the end of November, so you might have December, January, possibly February, with nothing before your exchange commences. Please don't plan Kentucky trips or anything like that in those months until you have the following documents in your hot little hand. Your study plan approved from your UQ faculty, an acceptance letter from the host university, and your student visa. As soon as you have those three things, go for your life. Do all the travel that you like. but you should not plan anything until all of those documents have been received. Why? Because we simply cannot control when all of those documents are going to be provided to you. As I mentioned, some host universities give you an acceptance letter the day after you've submitted your application. Other universities take 8 weeks. If you were going to Russia a couple of semesters ago, your acceptance letter is issued 2 weeks before the start of classes. So you have 2 weeks to receive your acceptance, get your visa from the Russian consulate, head over to Russia and start classes. We simply cannot control when the host is going to give your acceptance and when you're going to get all of those other documents. Some visas can take 3 months to process. So you really need to make sure that you are mindful of these dates and potential delays, and that you don't back yourself into a corner. And I have to leave by the 28th of June, but I can't get a visa appointment until the 1st of July. It's a lot of headache, a lot of stress for everyone involved. So please make sure that you keep this in mind. I do know that the earlier you book your flights, the cheaper they're going to be. So what I would suggest is that you deal with your travel agent and you ask if you can put down a refundable or transferable deposit on your flights so that you can lock something in at a cheap price, but that you're not committed financially if your plans need to change. The other thing is if you can book flights where the dates are movable, that's another really good option. Okay, so on to the host university acceptance. As I mentioned, the response time varies and UQ Abroad has no control over this. Now, 99% of our students are accepted by the host university. The process of applying to the host is merely to do the paperwork and to get you into their system. Really uncommon for students to be denied by the host university. We have had a few in past semesters, but it's usually really unusual, unexpected circumstances. So you should feel fairly confident that if you get through the UQ Abroad selection process and you get through the host university application process, then you should be accepted by the host. There are, however, no guarantees. The host universities, one semester we had a host university that had a funding cut from one semester to the next, and so simply wasn't able to financially accept all of the students that we wanted to send them, so they had to cut back the numbers. If something unusual, unexpected like this happens, then UQ Abroad will try and find you a new host destination to go to. The later that this change has to occur, the fewer options are going to be available to you, but we do generally find somewhere for the student to go. It might not have been your first preference, it might not have been even on your radar, but at least it's somewhere for you to go on exchange. So we do ask that you remain flexible in this process and that you're willing to consider other options if the need arises. So then, once you've been accepted by your host, or even before you're accepted, you need to choose courses. Now obviously this will need to be based on your study plan that has been approved by your UQ faculty. However, the courses that are approved by your faculty, there's no guarantee that they'll actually be on offer when you get to your host university. Because we know from year to year, semester to semester, course catalogues change. And the course catalogue that you've based your study plan on is for the current academic year, and you won't be actually at your host university until the next academic year. So things may change. What we encourage you to do is to keep an eye on the host university's website, keep checking and updating and refreshing to see if the course catalogue has changed. If you find new courses, complete a new study plan, get it into UQ Abroad, and we'll send it off to your faculty for assessment. There's no problems in having multiple versions of your study plan, in having revised, updated, additional study plans. The more courses you have pre-approved, the better position you'll be in when you get to your host university. You must take an equivalent full-time load at your host university in order to receive 8 UQ units here at UQ. So typically at UQ, 4 courses is our full-time load. Other parts of the world, 4 courses is not a typical full-time load. US and Canada, it's usually 15 credits or 5 courses. The UK, 60 credits, which could be 3 courses or it could be 6 courses. Europe, typically 30 ECTS is your full-time load, and this is anywhere between 2 to 8 courses. And in Japan, it's really very varied. So you need to be really clear on exactly what is expected of you in order to get your 8 UQ units of credit back here at UQ. If you're really struggling, then you can request special permission to take a reduced study load, so the equivalent of 6 UQ units while on exchange, and this process has to be done through the manager of UQ Abroad. So funding for your exchange. There are UQ Abroad scholarships and grants. You are automatically considered for these as an applicant who applied by the deadline, and notification of these scholarships will be issued in November this year. There are other scholarships available offered by the different schools and faculties here at UQ, and these need separate applications, so I would encourage you to liaise directly with the schools and faculties offering those scholarships. If you receive Centrelink while you're here at UQ, you can still receive your Centrelink while you're overseas at your host university, and you request a letter from UQ Abroad after you have received your acceptance letter from the host university. We can only issue the Centrelink letter after you've got that confirmation from the host. The OS Help Loan. You must be an Australian citizen and returning to UQ to study at least one course after your exchange to be eligible for the OS Help Loan. So hopefully you've all heard of the OS Help Loan, but this is a loan from the Australian government up to about $7,000 roughly for 2018. That goes straight on top of your HECS debt. So it's money in your bank that you can use for anything, and you pay it back once you've finished your degree and you're out in the workforce earning a wage above the minimum threshold. So to apply for this loan, you must apply online by the 15th of September. So this is coming up fairly soon. So if you're at all interested in this loan, make sure you get onto that one as soon as possible. All of the details are on the UQ Abroad website. And you can receive both the scholarship from UQ Abroad and also the loan from the Australian government. I would like to mention now the New Colombo Plan scholarship. So I'm specifically looking at the Asia group up here. So if you are going on exchange to Asia, then this is something that you need to look into. The New Colombo Plan Scholarship Program is a prestigious scholarship scheme for Australian students aged between 18 and 28 to do an exchange or to study in the Indo-Pacific region for 1 or 2 semesters. It does include travel and establishment allowances, a monthly stipend, and for some students it can be up to the value of about $60,000. So it is really, really worth looking into. It's very prestigious, as I mentioned. I think there's only maybe 10 or 12 scholarships that are given out across Australia. So you would be in a very elite group of students receiving this scholarship. The deadline for the applications is the end of this month. So that's something you'll really need to get onto quite quickly if you're interested in applying for this New Colombo Plan scholarship. But as I mentioned, it's really, really worthwhile if you're going to Asia. So getting ready to go, things coming up that you need to think about. Next semester, UQ Abroad has different events that we'd really love you to get involved in, specifically the meet and greets happening in week 3. This is an opportunity for you to come face to face with students who've gone on exchange and are now back at UQ, and also the incoming international students from the host universities who are doing their exchange here at UQ. So it's a chance for you to pick their brains, to establish some connections and some networks to help you figure out all the bits and pieces that you need to know before you actually go on exchange. So they'll be happening on the Monday, Tuesday of week 3. So I really encourage you to jump on the UQ Abroad website, find out exactly when your specific region is being offered, and come along to those meet and greets. For the US and Canada, there's also be some consulate information sessions. So again, more information about your visas happening during next semester. And you will be advised by your advisor about these sessions. I did briefly mention also the pre-departure session that's going to be happening in November this year. This is a mandatory session. It's really important that you attend to make sure that you're as best prepared as possible before you actually head over to your host university. Student visas. Now I know that this is going to be a little bit in the future for you, but it's really worth looking into now. Like I mentioned, for the US, if you've had any prior convictions, this may significantly impact your ability to actually get a visa. So do have a look into your host country and the requirements and rules around the student visa. If you were hoping that you could work while you were at your host university, the student visa rules may restrict your ability to work. So if that's a real consideration for you in terms of can I or can't I go, you need to make sure that the visa is allowing you to do what you need to do while you're on exchange. So please start your research now. It might even be worth starting to prepare the documents that you need to have ready for your visa application, so that as soon as your host university acceptance comes in, you can send the visa application off straight away. As I mentioned, sometimes it can take up to 3 months to get your visa processed. UQ Abroad is not technically allowed to advise on visas, about the specifics of individual visas, because UQ is not a visa issuing authority. That rests solely with the consulate or the embassy for the country that you're going to. So please, any questions you do have about visas, you really need to go straight to the source, to the consulate or the embassy here in Australia. Travel insurance. So you are automatically covered by the UQ corporate travel insurance while you're on exchange. It's a very, very comprehensive insurance. It covers you for a whole lot of different things. However, it does have fairly high excesses, and also it only covers you while you're in the country of your exchange. So if you're in Europe and you're planning on travelling every weekend, it's not going to be enough insurance for you. If you're going to the US and you're only going to stay within the US, then maybe it might be sufficient for you. So please have a look into whether or not it's going to be enough coverage for you, and perhaps if you need to purchase your own additional travel and health insurance while you're on exchange. One other event that we're going to be holding right at the start of next semester is campus tours. So the incoming international students who are doing their exchange here at UQ, it'll be their O week in semester 2, and we'd love for you to show them around campus and help them feel at home at their host institution, which is UQ. So on the Tuesday of O week in semester 2, which is the 18th of July, we'd love you to come along and help show the international students around, and it'll be followed by a barbecue down in the Natural Amphitheatre. So this is an awesome way for you to start establishing those international networks and to get to know a few international students here on campus before you head overseas and do the reverse. An email will be sent with more information about how to become a campus tour guide. A few last exchange FAQs. Can I go on exchange in my last semester? Yes, but it will most likely delay your graduation. So if you're in this particular boat, you might like to come and talk to us a bit later about that. Can I extend my exchange when I'm overseas? Unfortunately, no. We do get this request quite a lot, but we're not allowed to extend your exchange once you're already over there. So if you are at all interested in going on exchange for 2 semesters, then I'd really encourage you to change your, or let your advisor know that you're interested in 2 semesters as soon as possible, because we may be able to amend the time frame of your exchange now, but the longer you leave it, the less likely that we're going to be able to accommodate your request. The other option is that you put in another application in the next application round for the semester following this semester that you've applied for, but there's no guarantee that you'll actually get into that host. Because of being a second-time exchange student, you're considered lower than any other student who's never been before. So it may work out, but it may not. So if you're at all inclined for 2 semesters of exchange, the earlier you let us know and the sooner you change, the better. Can international students go on exchange? Yes, of course they can go on exchange. However, they can't go back to their home country. And if you were thinking about getting the post-study work rights visa after you finished your study here at UQ, then you may be affected by going on exchange. So again, something for you to potentially come and talk to us about. So to find out more, read the student testimonials on the UQ Abroad website, contact returned students. If you'd like, you can write an email to UQ Abroad and say, hey, I'd love to be put in touch with students who've gone to France before, and then we can send that email on to the students and you can get in touch with them directly. Join the UQ Abroad Facebook group. Also join Quest. If you haven't heard of Quest, it's a great student society on campus, mainly filled with incoming international students. So it's a great way to start those international networks. And do some research into your host, into your country of preference, into your visa, and ask UQ Abroad if you have any questions. So before we go on to our little pop quiz and some chocolate for everybody, are there any questions? No, I've answered them all already. Fantastic. All right, so now it's your opportunity to answer some of my questions. So, in the subject line, when you're emailing UQ Abroad... Sorry? Oh, you've got a question, sorry. So for the exchange, you really need to be there as a student. There are some countries that have like a working holiday scheme. I know the Netherlands particularly has a working holiday scheme that students are also allowed to study on that immigration document, and it does allow you to work. The focus of your time overseas needs to be study, and if the visa for study allows you to work at the same time, that's great. But you can't go there on a specific work visa and study at the same time. Does that make sense? Any other questions? Okay, on to my questions. So subject line, when you're contacting UQ Abroad, what needs to be in that?
Subject, host university, the semester that you're going, and your 8-digit student number.
Perfect. Yes or no? Are you allowed to contact your host university at this stage? Hands, people, hands. Yes. No, not allowed to contact host uni. When should you be expecting a response from UQ Abroad about your application? Yep. End of July, perfect. Who will be sending you information about the host university application?
The advisor responsible for the area that you're going to.
Very good. The UQ Abroad advisor responsible for your area. What supporting documents may you need to provide to your host university? Medical certificate, yep. Yep, down the front. Official UQ transcript, very good. Up the back. Personal statement, very good. How much validity does your passport need to have on it? Yep, in the pink shirt. 6 months after you come back to Australia, very good. Do not plan travel until you have received, what are the 3 documents with a scarf? Very good, thank you. Yes or no, can you update your study plan after it's been submitted? Yes, yes you can, absolutely. OS Help application deadline. With the scarf? 15th of September, very good. Oh, the blue cardigan. New Colombo Plan Scholarship. Which region is it for and what is the application deadline? Yep. Very good. Asia on the 30th of June. When will the meet and greets be held? Yes, week 3 in semester 2, the Monday and Tuesday. When will the campus tour be for the incoming international students? With hat?
Semester 2.
Yep, Tuesday of a week in semester 2. All right, last 2 questions. UQ travel insurance. I didn't actually tell you this bit. Okay, I need to tell you this bit. So the UQ insurance, it only covers you in the country of your exchange. Or did I say that? Yes. Okay, all right, I get the chocolate. Yes or no, is an extension of your exchange possible? All right, I don't have enough chocolates for all of you who said no. But yeah, as I said, if you're interested in 2 semesters, come and talk to us now or apply a second time. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for coming. Everyone for the US and Canada, please stay behind. Oh, hang on, there's the final words of advice. Steps for going on exchange on the UQ Abroad website. That'll help you go through what needs to happen. Please be flexible. Please be patient. There are a lot of players that are involved in this whole process, so please be patient. Ask for help if you need it. We're always here to try and answer your questions. Research your host, research your country, research your visa, and please take responsibility. This is something that you're taking on that is going to be of great impact to you and your future career, so please take it seriously, and we look forward to helping you out and getting you overseas. If you you have any questions, Ian and I will be out in the foyer after the presentation. You can either press stop recording or it'll run out after 90 minutes. Is it recording now? Yeah. Okay. So just stop that one? Yep.
If the US and Canada students want to just come forward a little bit so I can see all your faces, it'd be great. Okay, we can get started. Hi, my name's Eddie, and I'm the advisor for the US and Canada. This is just a really brief presentation about what to expect for applications, especially because for the US and Canada, you guys are the first to do applications, or host university applications. So specifically the University of California, your application deadline for the host university is the 1st of August. So you guys will probably hear from me about the outcome of your application if you've applied for UC and whether or not you've got a place for it. And I will most likely send you host university application instructions that day as well, because we also need to send them online and then we also have to send them through mail. So it's going to be really fast for UC applicants. Anyone for the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the non-engineering students, it's also August 1st or like first week of August, so look out for that. Arizona State University, it is 1st of September, but the nomination deadline is quite early, so you guys will know your place quite early on after July as well. Calgary, it's 1st of September, Boston College is mid-August, and the University of Washington is mid-August. So those are the 6 universities that have very early application deadlines and very early nomination deadlines. So you'll hear from me very quickly after results are released, most likely a week after results are released. If you are traveling over break, please check your UQ emails and get a power of attorney if you can. I will be sending a lot of emails, especially with those university, host university application instructions, so please just make sure that you do check your UQ emails because I will be sending a lot. Late applications do not get accepted, so if we miss the application deadline, your host university application will not be accepted by the host university, so that's why we have to make sure that we send hard copy documents in time by the deadline to the States or to Canada as well. So just make sure that you keep note of the deadlines. I will give you the deadline, I'll give you a reminder, I'll give you a second reminder when to send me applications documentation, but just please make sure you're aware of your deadlines as well. The USA application documents will take time. It's gotten a lot better since a few semesters ago where they require all of the documents all at one go. There's some that just now require the minimum documentation, and then they'll ask for bank statements or reference letters later on, like a second bit of the application, but you'll just have to be wary of that when I send you that time to apply email. But yeah, just remember that the USA application documents, and even the Canadian ones, do take time. I know Caroline said something about transcripts the other day, just not the other day, like a few minutes ago. Just make sure you don't request for your academic transcript after your results are released. Maybe wait until your results are released and you've chosen your courses for the semester, for semester 2 2017, so then that also gets captured in your academic transcript. Sometimes you have to take courses when you're on exchange that require prerequisites. So if you're completing the prerequisite of that course, you may want to add that into your transcript as well. So maybe add the courses that you're wanting to do in semester 2 2017 onto that transcript. Your results won't be released on that transcript, but at least you'll have record of what courses you're doing for that semester. And like Japan, sometimes with US universities, they like knowing that you're enrolled that previous semester. So just wait until you've picked your courses before you print out that academic transcript. Yeah, so with the application documents, most US universities will ask for a personal statement. I know we didn't ask you for a personal statement for the application to UQ Abroad, but you will most likely have to do a personal statement for your application. So as Caroline said, make sure you stick to academics, why you chose that university, why you want to go to the States or why you want to go to Canada. Please don't say, this is a great party school, because it has happened, and then applications are rejected because of that. Or, I heard that the frats are really good, blah, blah, whatever, you get it. So just make sure you're wary of what you write in your personal statement. Letters of recommendation, you can, pretty sure, ask your tutor as well. So if you don't have a good relationship with your lecturer, you can ask your tutor. For anyone living in college, I think a few students have used their tutors from college as well as their letters of recommendation, and that wasn't a problem. It has to be on a official UQ letterhead as well, so it just has to be legit. And it is required at the time of the application, but I will definitely let you know what documents are required when I send you all individual application instructions. Okay, so for upper division prerequisites, this is more specifically to the University of California students. UC is really strict when it comes to prerequisites and what courses you can take. So you have to make sure that you show that you've completed the prerequisites under each major. I'm pretty sure like physics and biology, I don't think they have introductory courses like that here at UQ. I'm pretty sure you have to do that in high school. So if you've done it in high school, you just have to show your high school certificate as well, along with your application documents. If you don't meet your prerequisites, you will need to change your first preference host university because they are very strict when it comes to getting into the courses that you're wanting to do. For UC students, if you do apply to the University of California, you will be asked to submit 3 study plans for 3 different host campuses. So I know that we've only asked you for your first preference host university, first preference campus for UC students. So you probably only did 1 study plan for like Berkeley. You will have to submit 3 different study plans for 3 different campuses. You don't have to do double the amount. I'm pretty sure you only have to fill out 4 courses, but you will have to do those 3 study plans as well. So just be flexible. If you've got electives saved up, please just make sure that you save them for your exchange. For both US and Canadian universities, you shouldn't expect to enroll in a full semester of courses under 1 department, especially when the fields are so limited. So like any business courses, sometimes you might only be able to enroll in 2 courses and the rest have to be in other departments, but you should definitely double check on the UQ Abroad host university page for all the restricted courses. Because you may need to choose a new host university if your courses don't fit or if your courses are too restricted. Okay, so for insurance, in Canada, it's compulsory to have health insurance. Your university will just enroll you in that. USA, you may be required to also purchase host insurance. There are a few universities that allow a waiver, so that allow our UQ insurance, but some are really, really specific. And so I found that a lot of US universities don't allow our UQ insurance, unfortunately. Insurance is about $250 to $1,800 per semester, depending on the university. So please double check your host university page on the UQ Abroad page. There should be some information on insurance below that. But just make sure you don't purchase additional insurance until you've been accepted by your host university, and also that your host university confirms that it will be accepted as well. Most of the time, if they require you to purchase the host university insurance, they'll suggest which insurance you should get anyway. Okay, so for the US student visa, most acceptances for the US come in between September, October, sometimes a bit later, depending on when the application deadline was. The visa documents may come later as well, so you might be accepted quite early, but then your visa documents probably might not come for another few weeks or another month. That's because it is processed by a different office. So it's not the exchange office that process acceptance documents or visa documents. It is a different office from the university, so it does take at least 4 to 6 weeks. We have found as well that the US visa documents are coming in a little bit later than expected. So yeah, just watch out for that. For the US student visa as well, you will have to fly down to a consulate, so either to Sydney and Melbourne for a visa interview. You actually can't apply for this interview until you've gotten your visa documentation, and you can't. A lot of people have tried to book flights before they've even gotten their visa documentation, and they've been turned away because they don't have the proper documentation. So just make sure that you have all the proper documentation. So you have to have your visa letter in hard copy, your acceptance, and I think it's finances as well before you fly down and interview at the consulate. And you cannot enter the US 30 days before your start of semester. These dates vary as well, so it is 30 days before the start of semester, but it depends what your uni specifies as your start of semester. It might be the start of orientation, or it might be the start of actual classes. So if you are booking flights and you've gotten everything accepted and you're ready to go, just make sure that you're wary of the 30 days before the start of semester, and that's probably why it's probably just good to wait until your visa documents, you've received your visa documents before you book flights. For Canada, Canadian dual citizens must enter with a Canadian passport. So this is a new rule from the Canadian consulate. So if you were born in Canada, or have applied for or received Canadian citizenship, or if your parents were born in Canada or were naturalized in Canada before your birth, you're actually considered a Canadian citizen, and that means you have to enter Canada with your Canadian passport. So if you don't have a Canadian passport, or if you didn't even know you were considered a Canadian citizen, you might have to start researching for your passport now, because they don't allow you to get on the flight from here to Canada unless you've got your Canadian passport, or a valid Canadian passport. If you are studying for less than 6 months, you actually don't need a study permit for Canada. You just have to apply for an ETA online. For our international students, you might have to apply for a different visa, not necessarily an ETA, but I will send you those details further on as well once you get your acceptance. If you are traveling through or to the USA, you'll also need a visa. I think it's an ESTA. Again, you can only get an ESTA once. So if you've already used it before, then you can't really transit through the US. So you might actually need a B1 or a B2 tourist visa, which means you'll have to fly down to Sydney, to the US consulate to get a tourist visa for the US if you're traveling through the US.